Hey there, I am beyond excited to share this video with you. This is to do with the two different approaches to when your child suddenly declares that, or not child, teenager. All my videos I'm really talking about kids that are post-puberty because that's what my personal experience is. So when they suddenly declare that they are transgender, um, just a different option from the affirmation option. So there's two options to help your teenager through. Many people default to affirmation, and in fact, many people are only told about the affirmation model. I prefer the support model, and that's what I'm going to discuss in this video, which I'm so excited about. Now, again, this relates to sudden declaration of being transgender by teenagers. So I was really inspired on a blog called Fourth Wave Now by a lady called, I think it's a lady, Fighting to Get Her Back is the screen name, and the blog was why I supported my autistic daughter's transition to become a man. And in that blog, it talks about the affirmation therapy, and I'll pop the link below. And it tells you everything you need to know about affirmation. So basically, this parent fighting to get her back was told every step of the way that this is the only way to support teenagers who adopt a transgender identity. And so basically what it is, if the child is a girl, the teenager is a girl, you confirm that they really are a boy trapped in a girl's body, or vice versa, a boy trapped in a girl's body, and then you go down the route of social transition, changing their name, changing their pronouns, changing their clothing, changing their hair, whatever it is that they want. Boys strap their penis so that it doesn't look obvious. Girls bind their breasts so it doesn't look obvious. They may even put a pack into their underwear so that it looks like they have a penis. Then there's obviously the cross-sex hormones, and later the surgery. So, and studies, well, data from gender clinics and other studies indicate that once these kids are on the route, and the further that they are down on this affirmation route, the more difficult it is for them to then change their mind or let people know if they have changed their minds. So that's affirmation. My concern with the affirmation model is a bit of a rush to have them declared transgender or to confirm that they are transgender. There's also another blog on Fourth Wave Now written by Chiara is her name, Chiara, who talks about that's a woman who went through transition or partial transition and then detransitioned back to being a woman, and her concerns about the affirmation therapy really putting people on a course that they might not otherwise go on. So that's the affirmation model. And when my daughter declared in June 2018, of course, like many parents, I didn't know anything about transgender issues, but I read that blog by Fighting to Get Her Back, and that raised incredible alarm bells with me. And I thought, well, there has to be another way. There has to be another option. And honestly, there really is not that much information out there for parents on this topic. There is information about affirmation. There's information about people who don't agree with affirmation, but there's not so much information about what you should do instead. How do you support them instead? And so for me, and this is what I did, and I'm just a mother, I'm not a medical professional, so this is just going from my experience, from what worked for me. obviously every person is different. So for me, the support model is more where you guide them through the gender exploration. You don't judge, you don't try and convince them, but you don't pretend either. And so I didn't like this idea of pretending that my daughter was a boy. And actually, one of the big issues between us in this journey was to do with names and pronouns. They wanted to be called he and a boy's name, and I just could not. I just said to them, honestly, to me, that would be so fake. I don't, this new identity of yours does not resonate with me, and that's just something I cannot do right now. So I didn't pretend that they were a boy, but I didn't judge them either. So when they said, I feel like a boy inside, I let them talk to me about what that felt like, or if they didn't want to talk, that was also fine. So it just, there was a stage at which my husband tried to dig deeper and try to convince them that they were not a boy, and that really didn't help. That was completely counterproductive. So this is really more, and I say this on my Twitter page, being the light that they wish to follow in the world. So giving them the opportunity to explore things. And this is a difficult process because it is their journey, it's not your journey. So they might make some decisions that you don't agree with. And for me, it was really important to say, I don't agree with that, but I'm going to trust you with that. So there's certain things that I said yes to that I said I didn't agree with. There's certain things that I just said no to because of health risks. And then there were other things that I agreed were no big deal. So for example, haircut, I thought was no big deal. I was happy for my daughter to change their hair. So as you go through this journey of discovery with your teenager, they may, at the end of the day, persist and remain fixed in their transgender identity. So that's important to remember. At the start, when they say that they are transgender, they may truly be transgender. But studies have shown, and there's a figure of up to 80% of teenagers who identify as transgender will revert to their original gender if they don't go down the hormone track. So there is a good chance that your teenager may not be transgender and simply exploring this identity. And so they may desist, which means stop going, or if they have transitioned, they may detransition. But the important thing, and for me, this was a light bulb moment, the important thing for me to always bear in mind, it wasn't about whether or not my daughter is or was transgender. It was, this teenager is in agony. Their gender dysphoria, which is basically, dysphoria means acute discomfort. They really are in emotional agony. So for me, it was about the gender dysphoria, and everything that I did, I had to remember that they were in this emotional, physical, psychological pain. And so that informed how I dealt with them during the whole process. So during the process, I asked them to keep an open mind, but then equally, I agreed and undertook myself to keep an open mind as well. So that's really important. I also found it was quite useful to have a goal at the beginning of the process, and this gender identity exploration is a process. So my goal, and this was strongly influenced by Sasha Ayed of inspiredteentherapy.com, is to keep a strong open relationship. And that probably, the information I got from Sasha on her Patreon page, it's a paid page. When I joined, it was only $10 a month. That was invaluable because I did start off on the wrong foot with my daughter. I did start off in a way that caused the relationship to break down and my daughter to shut down, and it was so counterproductive. So I reevaluated and I decided my goal is to keep a strong open relationship and to support my teen on their journey. Your goal might be different. Your goal might be to convince them not to be transgender. I don't think that's a helpful goal, because that's their identity is something personal to them and it's their journey. But whatever it is, and you don't have to tell them what the goal is, but it's quite useful, because then it informs every decision that you make. So the first step is to find out, or to think about, does your teenager have any mental health issues, and what professional support can you get? This is really, really important, because from the parents that I've spoken with, I can't think of a single example where a teenager has suddenly declared themselves to be transgender who did not have coexisting mental health issues. Many of them have extreme anxiety. Many of them have extreme, some of them have panic attacks. Some of them are bipolar. Many teenagers with autism, or with their black and white thinking, think that they are transgender, and some are, but some adopt the identity and then later discover that that is not their true identity. Professional support, I will deal with that. That's a whole another topic. But just briefly, be careful who you allow to have access to your vulnerable teenager. Generally, gender clinics have the agenda of transitioning your teenager. And so their mandate is to get them on the transition track. They do not spend any or very much time discussing whether or not that's the right option for your particular teenager. So think about getting professional support for your teenager to help with those other mental health issues, because my view was, with my daughter, if it ends up that they are transgender, and if they are going to go through transition later in their life, I want them to be in the best mental health space possible before that happens. So, yeah, mental health issues, get professional support. Very important, but can be counterproductive if you take them to the wrong person. So I always recommend that you meet with the professional first. Some people in some countries and some states, there are laws that say that professionals are not allowed to question the teenager's trans identity or help them work through it. Depends on what the laws are in your state. You're not stuck with that. These days, with internet and Skype, you can get a mental health care professional in another part of your country or another part of the world that will help you. And there is a significant proportion of mental health care providers who will help you work, or help your teen work through mental health issues. Which, of course, the more mentally healthy that they are, the better state they are in to understand their gender identity. So the second important thing, and I did not know this at the beginning, is to understand that part of the online trans misinformation that your teenager is probably looking at is your parents don't understand you, and or your parents hate you. So when teenagers start to feel different and alienated from their peers, and they're looking for answers as to what their identity is, they go online, they watch a lot of transgender informational videos, they read a lot of blogs, they do a lot of research, and much of the information that is available to them is this tendency to try and alienate them from their parents. And this is a very, very important thing to know. I've actually just recently seen an article in Quillette, that's a medical magazine, from Lisa Marciano on this very, very topic, and I will put the link below on that. So when you start with a conversation, understand that your teenager may already have the seed of an idea planted in their mind. And so remembering this and that they're in emotional pain, it's very important to be patient and kind, but firm. And this is what Sasha talks about in her videos, how to set boundaries. So that's not to say that you have to say yes to things you don't agree to, but be kind. I can't overemphasize that enough. Now, and this is a key point, you have to keep reminding them of what you've done to support them. So it's very common, I hear this from parents all the time, that they've done so many things to support their child and their teenager in this trans identity, and yet when the parent says no for the first time, the teen says, you don't support me. And so one example was a mom who had changed her job so that she could change her hours of work so that she could get her teen to the therapist the teen wanted to go to, changed the teen's wardrobe, agreed to haircuts, agreed to pronoun changes, the whole gambit of things. And then when the mum said no to hormones, the teen said, you've done nothing to support me. And we just have to understand this is the way teens' brains are wired, and they're already predisposed to this idea because of what they've seen on the internet. So my strategy was to keep reminding my daughter, she also started with this nonsense, you've done nothing to support me. And because you have already spoken with them about having an open and honest relationship, it was very easy for me to say, now hold on a minute, let's just pause this conversation. That's really not fair. I have said yes to haircut. I have taken you and got you a whole new wardrobe from the boys' department or the men's department. And then whatever it was, the next thing that she wanted, she would have to say, oh, all right, well, you did say yes to haircut and clothing, but anybody can have short hair and wear boys' clothes. And then as the different conversations continued, she started, my daughter's now non-binary, so the correct pronoun is they started saying, I know you said I could get a haircut and new clothes, but now I need the next thing. And so me verbalizing and reminding her put it in the front of her mind that there were some things that I had done to support their progress. Even though it wasn't as much as what they wanted, they were acknowledging they couldn't do anything else. And then the next stage that I got to was to actually look for things to support them relating to their identity, to their gender identity. So this is not to say that you should stretch the boundaries or move the boundaries, but is there any other way to help? And I'll talk a little bit later about the strategy that I came up with for dealing with the breast binder issue. So what I often do now is I can even, because I'm looking for it, I can detect in my daughter's body language when something makes them uncomfortable. And so, for example, certain language that makes them uncomfortable, or you just listen to what they say to you, and you will actually hear them say things. And I'll give you examples. I've got 4 examples that I will work through with you. And so what you're looking for is things that can make them feel more comfortable in their own skin, basically. So you're showing them support, even though you're not perhaps giving into demands. Okay. So remember that their default is you don't understand or support me, and keep verbalizing your support and reminding them. And this is important each time you do a thing to support them. And I know it feels quite ridiculous when you're doing it, but it really does pay off. And so I've actually got a formula that I use with my daughter, and I'm still using today. So I'll say, I see that you're having trouble with, for example, my daughter was very self-conscious, or still remains very self-conscious about their breasts. So it might be something that I've observed, or it might be something that they've told me. They had asked for a binder. I disagreed because I know that that's physically harmful. They disagreed with me because they've got a whole bunch of transgender people saying you can bind safely. That was my boundary that I was not prepared to budge. But then my next thing is, I can't agree to a binder because of health issues, but I've been really thinking about your difficulties in this regard, and I've been really trying to work out if there was any other way I could help you or support you. And I wondered if going for a bra fitting would help you, a professional bra fitting, and I know that there's particular types of bras called minimizer bras, which make your breasts look smaller. So then maybe you wouldn't be so self-conscious. So I put it very much as just putting it out there. I wonder if you would like to explore that with me. There's no pressure. There's no, I'm not making a judgment call on it. I'm not suggesting you must do it. I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just saying I've seen you struggling with something. You've suggested a solution that I can't agree to, and I tell her why I can't agree to that solution. I've really thought about this because, I want to be as supportive as I can. Would you like to explore that example with me? And that has worked really, really well. So I'll run through 4 examples now of where this has helped me. This formula has helped me with my relationship with my daughter. So the first example is a discussion that I had with my daughter regarding trigger words. Now, language is something that when your child identifies as transgender is going to be a massive issue for them. And I will do a completely different video on pronouns and name changes. And we did not agree to change to a boy's name or boy's pronouns. And actually at the end of, well, we didn't agree. We put that discussion on pause for 6 months. That's a thing that Sasha recommends. And at the end of the 6 months, our daughter said to us, I was very glad that you never let me adopt that boy's name. Anyway, because she no longer identifies as transgender, they identify as non-binary. Anyway, that's a whole different discussion. This discussion, what I'm talking about now, is any other language. So other than the pronouns and the teenager's name, is there anything else that you can do to help them? Now, initially, I have to say that I was pretty rigid about changing the way that I spoke, just because my kid was feeling uncomfortable. And that was a bad attitude that I had. And it goes back to thinking about my goal. My goal is to have a good, trusting relationship with my daughter, and remembering she has something called dysphoria. She is in psychological, emotional, physical pain. So that made me reevaluate my attitude. And so language, I could actually see when we speak that their entire body jerks in reaction, subconscious reaction. They don't know that I'm watching them, but to certain trigger words. And so I just had this conversation with them and said, look, that word seemed to make you feel uncomfortable. Is there anything else that triggers you that I can modify in my language? I'm not promising I'll get it right all the time, but I certainly will try. So, for example, when we went on a shopping trip with my daughter, my mother, and myself, I would normally say, oh, yay, it's a girl's day out. The word girl is something that makes my daughter uncomfortable. Now, before I understood that dysphoria is actually causing her a lot of anguish, I would have just said, just suck it up. But now my goal is to, A, be more empathetic and really try and understand what they are going through, but also for them to see that I'm not rigid and I am changing my views and my actions to be supportive. So again, I have the conversation with them and go, I see that this word seems to make you uncomfortable. I can't always get it right, but would it help you if I try to change that kind of language in my vocabulary? And then, of course, they say yes. These feminized words make me feel uncomfortable when they directed towards me. So then, because I've specifically said I'm trying to support you in your journey, then my daughter understands that I really am trying to be supportive. And part of the open communication is, again, that, well, I'm not always going to get it right, having a bit of a laugh. My brain is always foggy, or sometimes I'm tired, but I won't get offended if you let me know the words that I can avoid or change in my vocabulary to help you. Now, my boundary is I'm not going to call you a boy's name, and I'm not going to call you male pronouns. That was my boundary. And that was a very good bonding moment, actually, because then my daughter could see that I was really trying and really being actually supportive. That was something that was important to her. And frankly, parents, it's very easy for you to do. Now, I continue and have always continued to call them my daughter, and they know that. And I said from the beginning that is something that I just will not be able to change. But I can change girls' day out to family day out. So that's a very easy example. The second example was the one I spoke about earlier, which was the breast binder versus a professionally fitted bra. And so we had that conversation. My daughter was very engaged with the idea of getting some relief for feeling that her breasts were looking too big. She does have large breasts. And because I had formulated it as I would like to support you through this, they were very keen, and we went and we got the professional bra fitted. And when we got home, or after a few days, my daughter said to me, "Mom, I don't know how to tell you this, but this bra, it gives me support. I'm not jiggling around, but it kind of makes me feel like I'm looking very curvy, and it's not the outcome that I wanted." But because we've already built trust, they felt that they could tell me that. And my natural instinct is, we've just spent however many hundreds of dollars on these bras, and we drove 90 minutes to get there and 90 minutes to get back. But of course, I didn't say any of that. My goal is to have a good, trusting relationship and understand that she is in psychological pain. So I replied very patiently, and I said, look, if it's not working for you, then we need to try something else. The whole point of going and getting a professionally fitted bra was so that you could feel some sense of relief. And if that's not working, would you like to go and try again? They might have a different style that does more minimizing and flattening. And my daughter was very relieved, and they said yes, they would love to go back. And would I help explain to the bra fitter really more what my daughter wanted? Because they said maybe they didn't explain it well enough. And that's exactly what we did. We went back. I explained to the person that my daughter wanted a flattest looking chest possible. And we got a second round of bras. And that really made a significant difference to my daughter's body image. They don't feel so exposed with their breasts now, but also it built a significant amount of trust, because I've told her within the boundaries of safety, I will do anything I can to help you through this. So that was a really good bonding experience, but also had a really good outcome of my daughter is now not fixated on a binder at this stage, and feels a lot more secure in themselves and their body image, which is, of course, part of what we're trying to achieve. The third example was relating to the school shirt. My daughter goes to a school which has a school uniform, and last year they all wore green coloured uniform, which is quite a thick unisex sports uniform, no problem. This year, the school has a new policy. Every Monday, everybody has to wear a white shirt. Not only that, the girls' shirts are tailored, so their breasts really look very obvious. I did try and help my daughter by looking at boys' shirts that weren't tailored. The boys' shirts are completely see-through, so that didn't work. So the girls' shirts, and now again, I'm having the conversation with them throughout, going, I understand the white shirt is making you feel uncomfortable. I understand that you feel exposed about your breasts. Let's work together and see what we can do to make you feel the least possible discomfort within the rules of the school. So boys' shirt didn't work. Then we tried an oversized girls' shirt, which was sort of okay, but not great. Then my daughter said to me, Mom, I'm very scared that it's going to rain. And I hadn't realized before this that they actually feel very exposed if anybody can even see their bra strap. They feel naked. So they said, if it rains, people might be able to see my bra strap. And I don't even know if they'll be able to see my breasts through, the shirt and the bra. What should I do? This child was avoiding going to school on Mondays because of having to wear this stupid shirt. And there was school skirts as well, and we managed to get them shorts, which is what the boys wear. But the shirt was the big issue. I could see her whole body tensing up. So I said, look, I think that when they designed it, they would have thought about that, but why don't you try it out in the shower? Get in the shower, wet the shirt, come back out, and we'll see what it looks like. And they were too embarrassed to actually put the shirt on, so they just draped it over their arm to start. That was the first experiment. And when they came out, the shirt was completely see-through. So I said, well, no, this is not a real test. You need to do the shirt and the bra. So she did the shirt, and they did the shirt and the bra, and it really was see-through. And so long story short, we brainstormed it, we discussed it, and this is the really important thing that I want to get across. It wasn't just me making a decision to help her about the uniform. It was her and I, or them and I, working together to find a solution that made them feel better. It was really important that this was not me imposing my will. So I approached the school, explained the situation. They needed a doctor's letter. We went to the doctor. We got the doctor's letter. The school said the doctor's letter wasn't good enough. It needed to say something else. So we had to go back to the doctor and then back to the school. And the whole time this is happening, I've got my daughter as a captive audience in the car while we're driving up and down. I'm using that as an opportunity to complain against the school, going, they should have thought about people that have got body image issues. They should have thought about people that are going through gender exploration. They should have thought about transgender kids. And my daughter is agreeing with me. And so now suddenly this thing that was causing her all this anxiety becomes a moment for the two of us to bond. It becomes a moment for her to see me as a mother who's gone out on a limb for her, who's really tried to do something that will make her experience of life better. And so in the end, the outcome of the school shirt saga is that she's allowed to wear the old thick green shirt that is not see-through. And other kids also had problems with the shirts, not only the shape, but there was sensory issues as well for kids with autism, which my daughter also had the sensory issue. The shirt was very scratchy. After we paved the way, they then sent out a notice to the parents saying, any kids who've got any medical or sensory issues or reasons not to wear the white shirt, let us know. And so now there's about 30 kids in the school that wear the green shirt all the time. So that was another example of, I see you're uncomfortable, you've told me you're uncomfortable, let's explore this, let's see what any other options we can come up with. Is it really that serious? Would your bra be exposed? So really taking her seriously, really listening to what they're saying. And yeah, that was another bonding one. And then the fourth example, and of course, I have a daughter, so anybody who's got boys with gender dysphoria, I'm sorry, but my examples are all to do with my daughter. The fourth example related to periods. Now, my daughter still has very bad periods, long bleeding, lots of cramps, and at times migraines. And, you know, I kick myself, but initially it didn't occur to me that this could be one of the reasons why she hates being a girl. It's so obvious. I mean, bleeding 3 weeks out of 4, cramps for 2 weeks so that you can't even get out of bed, migraines so you can't even talk to people. It's so obvious. And so, again, this is something I first spoke to the doctor without my daughter present so that I made sure I had my information correct, but then spoke to my daughter and said, look, we all know that you're having these really terrible problems with your periods. I've had a quick word to the doctor. I didn't get into any great detail without you, but just on a very general level, the doctor has confirmed that there is medication that you could take that could minimize or eliminate your periods. Is that something that you would like to explore and would like me to explore with you? And of course, they said, yes, yes, yes. And so we've been going through that process with the doctor. My daughter's gone on a contraceptive pill to try and stop the periods. They haven't stopped yet, but I think they are getting a bit lighter. And throughout the whole process, it is important to normalize discussions to do with gender and include humor. So the other day I said to them, have you taken your hormone pill yet? And then I had to laugh, and I just said, now there's a sentence I never thought would come out of my lips. And we both had a great laugh because obviously I don't want them taking testosterone hormones, but here I'm giving a different kind of hormone. So again, as we go through the process, saying to her, I'm doing this to support you. I understand that you're having a problem. I understand this relates to gender. Would you like to explore this option with me? And then if it comes to the issue of you don't support me, they can't say that. It just makes no sense because we've had all of these discussions about the different ways that I can support them. And yesterday we had a discussion, and this made me nearly cry. I said to them yesterday, it's so sad. Some teens really think that their parents are against them. And my teen said to me, I am so lucky to have a supportive mom like you. She wasn't crying. But it's taken me 9 months to get to this stage where my teenager said to me, Mom, I'm so lucky to have a supportive mom like you. Now, we don't always agree on everything, and we know that, and we're very open about that, and we're very honest about that, and I've told her that from the beginning. But to know that she knows that I'm in her corner, whatever else is coming and whatever else we face, it makes it so much easier. I think back to her 9 months ago when she had come out as transgender, and we were trying our best as parents. We were really trying to understand what she meant or what they meant. We had no idea what this new transgender identity was. And each time we spoke about it, it just seemed no matter how much we tried, my daughter became more and more alienated from us. And so you really have to look for opportunities to support them and keep reminding them that you're supporting them. And I just thank Sasha Ayed for her videos, because she's got this video about building trust with teens and rebuilding trust if you've already messed it up. And we were kind of in that boat, I have to tell you, and setting boundaries. And honestly, from that, made me think about this idea of not only building the trust, but emphasizing that I'm on your side, emphasizing that and making them say it back. And so that's where we're at today. And so my teen identifies as non-binary, which is they're not happy with, well, they feel dysphoric, they feel severe distress at the thought of being female or the thought of being male. And so we are not at the end of our gender journey, but this makes it so much easier, and it makes it possible to have some really special moments together as well, where it was very hard for a while. It was very hard to even be in the same house because it was so painful, because my teen really did listen to what was said online, that your parents are against you and your parents hate you. My teen knows in the bottom of her soul, no matter what happens, our role as parents is to support and protect. And we might not always agree, but we always have their best interests at heart. And wow, that's an amazing place to be. It really is. So I wish you all of the best. Please comment, please like, please subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, I would love to hear from you. Wish you all the very best with your journey with your teenager. Bye for now.